We examine Brazil's pre-2026 political chessboard and what it reveals about power, opposition, strategy, and democratic competition. Now, to unpack this, I'm joined by Alexander von Rugen. He's a global policy analyst in Amsterdam. Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining us at this time.
My pleasure.
It's good to see you again. Now, to begin with, Brazil's opposition appears to be reorganizing earlier than usual. What is driving this urgency? Would you say it is genuine electoral momentum or anxiety over the president's ability to dominate the political narrative ahead of 2026?
Well, there's many polarizing factors in Brazil. Lula, currently the existing president who's running again, is a coalition government, and he's currently sitting in jail. Protesters are organizing demonstrations around the country in favor of Bolsonaro, who represents the far right. So it's a disruptive force, especially in an election year. Also, Bolsonaro's son has been proclaimed as his father's assigned leader. He's running, Flavio, as well as Bolsonaro's wife, Michelle, seems to be leading a lot of demonstrations. So in the secular makeup of the country, it's going to be a coalition government. That's the prediction. So how that fares and in whose favor is it's tactical right now, and I think they're starting early. You're going to see a lot of online media tactics, probably involving fake news and things of the like, which we see in America as well. Yeah. So everybody's digging in for a tactical advance on prior to the election.
All right, but Alex, coalition building is central to Brazil's political culture. How realistic are the current opposition alliance talks? Do you have an idea of what ideological compromises are already emerging behind the scenes?
Well, being a leftist, Lula's got to make some concessions on global warming, environmental issues, but at the same time, he's now allowing permits for fossil fuels, for drilling, offshore drilling. He's making concessions on environmental protections in the Amazon. Those are basically compromises to the coalition party to get them to support him, instead of having a typical far left position. He's toned things down a little bit. He was very anti-U.S. until, of course, President Maduro of Venezuela was apprehended by the U.S. government, and his anti-U.S. rhetoric seems to be a little taken back. He's balancing between the U.S. and China in world trade. They have a big trading relationship with China, also with the U.S., but Brazil is in the Western Hemisphere. It's part of the Americas. The U.S. feels that they control the Americas. They're the policemen of the Americas. It's also interesting to note in the history of Brazil, they've had 6 different successful coup attempts. So they're not exactly unknown to coups. And their military has stepped in multiple times to take over a country if they feel it's being mismanaged. That was the threat with Bolsonaro, because his co-conspirators were all military, and many of them have not gone to trial yet. And this is an election year. So this could be a perfect storm for what could be a coup in the making. I'm not saying it is, but when you have these components aligned and you have a country that's sectoral, this creates a perfect storm of events. So I think they're taking precautionary measures, and they're starting their campaigns much earlier. Yeah. By the way, the military mindset in Brazil, they don't call it coups, they call them revolutions. And the military is indoctrinated to be patriotic, and if they feel a country's being mismanaged, they're taking it over to steer it in the right direction. So that's their kind of their narrative.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of scores, whether perfect or otherwise, let's talk about the economic performance and social inequality, which actually remains key fault lines. So to what extent has Lula's administration delivered on its economic and social promises? And also, where is the opposition finding the most traction with the voters?
Lula's base is low-income Brazilians. There's no doubt about that. And his coalition is with the Socialist Party, communism. So that his appeal to the low-income Brazilians, keeping food prices down, keeping inflation under control, is what he's basically projecting. Now, he's focusing on the economy. The consensus in Brazil right now is the faith in the electoral process is being questioned, as it is all over the world with election manipulations and tampering. So I think that's going to be the focus in this election as well.
All right. So now, regional power blocks, and state governors, we know, often shape national outcomes in Brazil. So how influential are these sub-national actors in the pre-election political chessboard? Do you think that they could tilt the balance away from the federal center?
Very, very definitely so. In fact, when Brazil got its independence and became a republic in 1889, they were the United States of Brazil, was originally their country's name. The governors in Brazil wield a lot of power because they can actually overrule federal mandates in their own states. And their popularity with their own people tends to be above 50%, which exceeds the popularity of, say, Lula as a president of the country. Lula's base as a coalition power is only somewhere in between 15 and 26% of the voters for his party. So he has to form a coalition with other parties in order to get a majority in their Congress.
Okay. Now, just before we wrap up with you, Alex, looking beyond Brazil, this early repositioning mirrors trends in democracies worldwide. What does Brazil's pre-election maneuvering tell us about, the state of democratic competition and power retention in emerging and also established democracies?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about Africa, Nigeria in particular, you have a secular country. Now, every country is unique. So you can't just come up with a playbook and say, this is the way it has to be done. Every country has their unique problems. But one common denominator going on right now, especially in democracies, is the media, the internet. Very powerful, both pro and con, fake news, manipulated news. We have to be very careful. The platforms that of free speech that are involved are also very influential in steering an election. Let's look at the Gen Z population. They're an emerging group that are a majority now, especially in countries where 70% of the population is under 30. Africa is in that role, so is Brazil. The Gen Zers have been known to topple governments in the last year. They've done it in Nepal, they've done it in Bangladesh, they're doing it in Mozambique, they've had protests in Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya. So when those numbers match the statistics, I think the threat is greater. The Gen Zers want hope, they want a future. And they're a force to be reckoned with in any election. So any politician that doesn't take them into consideration in his platform is probably making a tactical mistake. Any politician that turns off the internet to control voters or to control information will also be making a tactical mistake. It will be like taking drugs away from a drug addict when it comes to the Gen Zs. They will react violently. So these are the new rules going forward. how politics absorbs them and navigates through these new obstacles because of the modern day. We're an electronic society. That'll be interesting how it plays out. Brazil is sectoral, and it has a left and a right, much like America. They're predominantly Christian, but interestingly enough, they're moving away from a total 100% Catholicism to about 33% evangelical Protestant Christians right now. So they're more what we'd call conservative right. So and Lula is more socialist left.
Okay.
Again, Bolsonaro's in chief. He's protesting. There's organized protests around the country. The dynamics here are different than other countries, yet similar. So we have to look at them country by country, case by case. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your expert's opinion and your take on this, Alexander von Rugen, global policy analyst in Amsterdam, Netherlands. Thank you once again.